Hello guys, I'm Kiri, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about McLAREN M14. This is a Formula 1 car from 1970 and was raced by McLaren in the season 1970 and 1971. The later version of the McLAREN M14 is McLAREN M14 D, the car what we have here today in front of us. And the difference between this McLAREN M14 D and the normal McLAREN M14 was, of course, the engine. They swapped the engine from Ford, originally from Ford, to Alfa Romeo, because they try to bring something new, something fresh, to replace the old already Ford DFV engine, V8 engine, but actually wasn't successful. So the Alfa Romeo engine was even not that good like the old Ford engine. So how I said, originally the engine was Ford Cosworth DFV V8 3 liters, of course, because from that time the regulations in Formula 1 was the capacity of the engine needs to be maximum 3 liters. So of course this is Ford Cosworth DFV 3 liter V8, 2993 cc, 90 degrees, naturally aspirated, of course not turbo compressors on that time. The engine was mid-mounted, so on the back middle of the car, longitudinally mounted. The transmission, of course, was 5-speed Hewland, 5-speed manual gearbox, and the weight of the car was approximately 540 kilograms. The drivers of the car, of this great car, were Denny Hulme, of this particular car, of course, you can see here on the right side of the car, Denny Hulme, one great name. Bruce McLaren, of course, the owner of the company McLaren on that time. Dan Gurney, of course, the American Formula 1 driver, Dan Gurney. And the debut of the car was, how I said, the car came in 1970, so the debut of the car was 1970 South African Grand Prix. But how I said, the car actually wasn't successful. You can see here the engine, the 4 exhausts on the right side, because the engine is longitudinally mounted behind the driver. So 4 exhausts from the right side, 4 on the left side, and even the tires, the massive tires, of course, on the back. How I said, the car wasn't successful. The car did 18 races in total for Formula 1, but with 0 wins, 0 pole position, and no fastest laps at all. So this is maybe not that good for the McLaren history, but anyway, 1970 and 1971 was a great era. And how you can see here, this model M14D was built for Andrea de Adamic and was just one off example, production 1970, and with the Alfa Romeo V8, of course, 3 liter engine. But the chassis actually is the same, M14A. The car what we have here today, how I said, is M14D. And just because they needed to install the new Alfa Romeo engine, they rebuilt all the backside of the car to make exactly the space for the new Alfa Romeo V8 engine. But the original McLaren M14A was evolution of the previous M7A. So this was better than the other car. Of course, the predecessor of the M14, M7, was powered by the Ford Cosworth DFV, the same V8 engine, just here is a little bit more powerful, and the same Hewland 5-speed manual gearbox transmission. Of course, how I said, this particular car is with Alfa Romeo engine, so how I said, 3 liter, of course, Alfa Romeo engine was the same like on that time. Alfa Romeo, they had one very successful from the sport prototypes model, Alfa Romeo T33, and the engine actually was taken from the Alfa Romeo T33 and was put on that car, but how I said, the car wasn't successful, the McLaren M14D, and everything ended up with just one example. And even the car wasn't powerful enough, but not only the power, the handling as well was different than the standard McLaren M14A. McLaren M14A was even better on the track, was handling better. probably because of the new engine. They changed something on the backside of the car, of course. And the model M14D with the Alfa Romeo engine was not qualifying in every race. In some races, even behind, very behind the first racers. In Alfa Romeo, they was working very hard to change to solve actually the problem with the engine, because probably most of the retirements of the car was because of the engine. And so they was working very hard to make the Alfa Romeo engine working properly. So they changed the sump pump, of course, because they was thinking this is the problem of the car. And actually for the Italian Grand Prix, the car with the Alfa Romeo engine qualified in 12th place, which was actually the better place for this Alfa Romeo engined McLaren. But again, the car after a couple of laps again was struggling from some different problems. In total, this car, McLAREN M14 D, did only 5 starts for the Grand Prix Formula 1 races. Actually no win, of course, no podium, no points, no pole position. The first actually race for the McLAREN M14 with the Ford, of course, DFV, Ford Cosworth DFV engine. So the first race was the French Grand Prix in 5th of July 1970. So this is exactly 50 years ago. But how I said, the car was equipped with the Ford V8 engine, and then, how I said, they tried to bring something new to install the Alfa Romeo engine on this car, but wasn't working, even was worse than the Ford engine. And then on the end of 1971 season, McLAREN, they sold the chassis from the M14 to some privateer, and then he installed Chevrolet V8 5.7 liter, and he attempted some different kind of races. The car ran up to 1980, and then, of course, retired from any races. The designer of the car was Gordon Cuppock. The engine, of course, how I said, originally in the McLAREN M14, the engine is Ford Cosworth DFV, but here is Alfa Romeo V8 with 430 horsepower. The body of the car is with monocoque sides and fiberglass nose and cockpit surround. Of course, the fiberglass was the most common material in Formula 1 on that time, because carbon fiber on that time was not in use. But the carbon fiber actually was the material which all the teams they were using. So how you can see, the car now today is owned by the McLAREN again, and is bring back to the original condition. How I said, just have a look at the car with number 11, of course, Denny Hulme's number, 1970-1971 season, and just have a look from the front side of the car. Looks absolutely beautiful, amazing car with the liveries, Gulf, Goodyear. Of course, on that time the car were equipped with Goodyear tires, but today you can see the tires are Avon. And you can see on that side, of course, the suspensions, the front suspensions. Again, the liveries advertises Gulf, Goodyear. Just have a look at the part of the front suspensions with the coil spring, the shock absorbers, of course. Absolutely beautifully made car. How we said before, for the other McLAREN cars, they were actually very beautifully made, very beautiful cars, and this orange color suits absolutely perfect on the McLAREN cars. Denny Hulme, of course, McLAREN cars, Reynolds Aluminum. Reynolds Aluminum probably is American company, because aluminum in American language, in English, is aluminium. So just have a look inside. The cockpit is very Spartan. The steering wheel with no buttons like today's cars, and the top of the engine, of course. Here we have Alfa Romeo V8 3-liter engine, 430 horsepower. Just have a look on the sides, the exhausts, the suspension, of course, beautifully made, and the backside of the cockpit, of course. The tires, the back tires, absolutely massive. 1970s actually, where the Formula 1 cars were using the very wide rear tires, and the back spoiler is made from aluminum. How you can see the advertised, of course, Reynolds aluminum. And here is some information about the McLAREN M14 D01. Of course, how I said, 1970 season, and V8, of course, Alfa Romeo engine. The rear car part of the car was changed to house the Alfa Romeo new Alfa Romeo V8 engine, 430 horsepower, V8 natural aspirated, longitudinally mounted engine on the back. Just have a look, the rear dry shafts, massive, of course. The rear brakes on the tires, just have a look there. Inside, like some Alfa Romeo models, I remember just Alfa Romeo 75, maybe it's one of the worst cars to using this this design of the rear brakes on the insides, near to the differential. And from that view as well, the cars looks absolutely pretty amazing, but in the same time it's very nice car. The left side, of course, McLaren cars, Denny Home, very beautifully made car. So guys, I hope you liked the video about this McLAREN M14, and specifically about this McLAREN M14 D with the Alfa Romeo engine. If you like, please subscribe, and see you next time, guys. Bye.